more young people becoming entrepreneurs. Barbadians are being called on to own the Crop Over Festival. And in sports, India beat defending champions Australia in their World Cup clash today.
Broadcasting from our studios in the Pine St. Michael, this is CBC Newsnight, starting now.
This segment of Weekend Newsnight, brought to you by Sagicor, wise financial thinking for life.
And very good evening to you. I'm Lisa Broom. This is Newsnight. In our top story tonight, Minister in the Ministry of Economic Affairs and Investment, Marcia Cadell, is encouraged by the number of young people who have made the bold step to start their own business. She says there was a time when young people hesitated before bringing their product to market, but with the advent of social media, this is no longer the case.
I also hope that what they're feeling is a sense of an improved investment climate, improved environment for doing business. A lot of the reason that we've been focusing in the last 12 months on the doing business environment is so that people don't feel that there's so many barriers to entry for the market. So whether that is the town planning legislation or looking to deal with corporate registry, so it's easier to set up a business. We want people to, we don't think that the role of government now is to necessarily select industries, but to create an investment climate that anybody with a great business idea can make their product marketable and bankable, and that's what we're seeing here today.
Minister Cadell was speaking to the media during a tour of BMEX 2019. One of her first stops was to the Barbados Coalition of Service Industries booth, where she was presented with a copy of their new magazine, The Exporter, of which she is featured on the cover. Minister Cadell says she's pleased with the emphasis being placed on the creative sector during this year's exhibit.
I was just in a panel on climate resilience at these CDB annual meetings. And one of the things we've been saying is that we really need to climate-proof our economies. And what does that mean? That we need to develop industries that don't rely on high transport costs, high logistics, that you can kind of hit a button and send your product via broadband to anywhere in the world. And so I think that a focus on creative products, intellectual property, so that you can develop something, that doesn't have these high transport costs or isn't necessarily dependent on whether there's an extreme weather event, that's the kind of thing that we want to see.
Female entrepreneurs are being reminded of the role they must play in helping to transform the economy. It's coming from Minister in the Ministry of Foreign Trade, Sandra Husband. She says one of government's goals is to have an entrepreneur in every home, and a specific focus is being placed on female entrepreneurs.
The gross domestic product of our country needs you. While you may think your business is small, while you may think you're struggling to make ends meet, while you'll have issues from time to time with cash flow, every single penny that you turn over in your business contributes to the GDP of Barbados. And therefore, what you do every day is not only important to you and your family, it is important to your country.
Minister Husbands was speaking during the closing ceremony of We Export, a program designed to promote and increase exports by Caribbean businesswomen. She says exports by small businesses are especially critical as government continues to execute the Barbados Economic Recovery and Transformation, or BERT program. And that's why Prime Minister Mia Amour-Motley is working hard with regional partners to make it easier to export within the region.
We believe that if your businesses are going to grow, you are going to need more than 280,000 people to sell to. We're seeking to create a market that works for you, that gives you access to over 14 million people. And the focus of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade is to identify potential markets across the region that we can make better use of. One such market is the Guyana market. Another one is the Surinamese market. And we're also looking towards Panama.
Crop Over 2019 has officially started with a call for Barbadians to take ownership of the festival. It was made by Culture Minister John King as the National Cultural Foundation took the opening of the First Citizens Crop Over launch and ceremonial delivery of the last canes to the north.
Speightstown came alive yesterday when a number of community and cultural practitioners hit the streets in a massive parade that signaled the start of the festival. Tracing the island's history, characters depicted Barbados's Amerindian, African and European heritage and gave a taste of how the cultural landscape has grown over the years as well. Culture Minister John King told the audience gathered in Speightstown the festival is theirs, and this year's slogan, Crop Over Correct, had a very specific meaning.
It was conceptualized on the premise that the definition of being correct is whatever seals the experience for you. The mass, the music, the people, the vibe, the art, the food. And accepting ownership means you recognize that you have a stake in its preservation and in this journey to getting Crop Over correct.
Minister King acknowledged there will not be consensus on all of the decisions taken, but he says the aim will always be to get the various components right.
Any changes made from a cultural policy perspective are to provide a framework for its betterment. Like delivering on our promise to grant duty-free concessions to registered cultural practitioners. The removal of the tax clearance certificate as a requirement for the payment of subventions, and the provision of a state-of-the-art recording studio made fully accessible to registered Calypsonians participating in our junior and senior competitions, fully covered by the NCF.
Crop Over was recently named the 27th most popular festival in the world. It's a feat the NCF's chief executive, Carol Roberts-Reefer, says was achieved because of the hard work of the stalwarts. But she has also warned this new ranking, although good, is not enough.
We owe it to the pioneers, the administrators and stalwarts of the past to repackage this festival and strategically and proudly present it to Barbadians and peoples from all over the world for their enjoyment.
And speaking of the hard-working contributors, the 2019 male and female sugar workers were rewarded. They are Sherlyn Redmond, a tractor driver of more than 45 years, and Denise Hines, a general worker. 6 Crop Over stalwarts were also recognized for their contribution in a variety of areas over the years.
A prominent businessman, Sir Asad John Halout, has officially been conferred the highest honor of the land. Sir Asad was knighted by Governor-General Dame Sandra Mason during a ceremony at Government House last evening. Sharika Griffith has that story.
The announcement of Sir Asad John Halout's elevation came with the release of the 2019 New Year's Honours List. The executive chairman of Chefette Restaurants has been conferred the honour of Knight Bachelor for services to the hospitality industry and philanthropy. The late Dr. Frances Louise Chandler was bestowed the Commander of the Order of the British Empire posthumously. She passed away in February. Dr. Chandler was recognized for her services to agriculture and sustainable development. Her insignia was received by her niece, Stephanie Barnett. For services to nursing and the community, Cynthia Joan Williams received an insignia for the Officer of the Order of the British Empire. And rounding up the list of honorees are 2 new members to the Order of the British Empire. They are Reverend Hewson Carlos Innes, recognized for services to youth empowerment and the fight against HIV/AIDS, and John Wayne Anderson Watts, who was awarded for services to environmental health. The ceremony coincided with the official birthday of Her Majesty the Queen. Sharika Griffith, CBC News.
Well, government has effectively served notice on businesses in arrears with the Barbados Investment Development Corporation, or BIDC. Chairman John Rochford says the money owed is needed to ensure the BIDC can continue to offer its programs. The corporation has reached out to assist businesses.
Our BDOs have been trying to assist these companies in, helping them to grow their business, see how we can probably get them to do exports and so on, so that they can make more revenue to keep the business going, grow their business, and hence, we do also have some repayment plans for them. Hopefully, they will be able to stick to those plans and but the rents are definitely really, really great in relation to what obtains in the market generally.
Minister of Industry and International Business Ronald Toppin raised the matter in Parliament last year. Tenants were given a lifeline as a stay on notices to quit were sent out to a number of tenants.
That expired at the end of last year. We're now into the 6 months of this year. I don't think that any tenant right now of the BADC could really complain of unfair treatment. I really don't think that any one tenant in the BADC could complain of unfair treatment. So there comes a time when you just have to do what you have to do. And that's putting it directly and fairly. We still have the commitments to the programs that the chairman mentioned. And without funding, you can't run the programs.
More than 1 million people turned out for protests in Hong Kong to oppose a law that would allow extradition to mainland China for suspected criminals. Organizers say this is the largest demonstration since the city's handover to China in 1997. Civil Human Rights Front, the group who organized the protests, says more than 1 million people took to the streets on Sunday, but Hong Kong police projects the number of protesters close to 230,000.